Okay, today's my birthday, so you can't argue with me. That's not true. This will not be a 30-second video, but because I have a little bit of time here at work, and it's my birthday, and I feel like it. I want to discuss with Happy Jesus, 1, 2, 3. Then we'll have a little discussion here on some questions that he posed on my last 30-second video. Basically, my last 30-second video went with the proposition that as much as atheists think that theists like myself, Christians like myself, are nuts for our belief, that we exist in a reality that's pretty nuts. For instance, a reality that, based on scientific evidence, shows that we are cousins of a plant. It's nuts. Okay, it's crazy. It's unfathomable. We haven't seen any of that in natural world. So, Happy Jesus says, well, then scientific ideas have a demonstrable. They're demonstrable with the physical world. I think you might have been drinking here, Happy Jesus. I'm not sure. I'm trying to decipher. Basically, you're saying we can prove things in the physical world, science, but it's really religion that requires faith. Well, I think that the evidence for God, it's everything that you've already heard before. I think it's obvious in the form of design. But discussing the DNA and 3 billion base pairs in every tiny cell of our body, it's crazy, and it's scientific reality. It's nuts. I mean, we can't see it but through a microscope, and it has 3 billion base pairs. You then say, well, then religion is just requires faith. No, I use science. I believe science only confirms the existence of a creator. Now, science and religion are two different things. They always will be. I don't believe the Bible conflicts with it, but they're different because science merely explains what happens. Science is merely an attempt, our meager-brained, enhanced skin cell viewing and perceiving humans. It's our meager attempt to try and figure out how the world works. The existence of God is not going to be proven in that one way or the other, because the Christian or the deist will always be able to believe that no matter what process we find, God did it. It's not a God of the gaps, because it's not a God of a gap. It's not a gap issue. It's just a belief that whatever process we have that exists in the world was created by something. That's a simple. So they're two separate things. And also on the issue of proof. Religion, I believe science helps to prove the existence of a creator. And you're a great mind, Happy Jesus. Sure, I'll give you that. I don't know you that well. But great minds will disagree, okay? I'm being a little immodest there. But nonetheless, I'm saying that you can perceive something entirely different. Okay, that's fine. I don't think it's a logical position, just like you don't think mine is the logical position. But in trying to say that science disproves God, it really is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous notion, because we only see how a process works. And we create theories on how that process works, on how our origins became, how it all started. But however it started, it won't take away the concept that there was a cause. And I cannot see that there will be ever be able to prove with our meager minds and our meager eyes how it all started from a natural place. There will always be the next step that you could take, and a deist would be able to say, well, God did it. Always. No matter where we take it. And so, you said religious knowledge is fundamentally a different kind of knowledge than scientific. In most cases, yeah, of course. I mean, the Bible is not a science textbook. It absolutely is not a science textbook. The Bible is a history book. So you see, we're not going to prove the existence of Alexander the Great by doing a scientific experiment. We're not going to prove the life story of Julius Caesar by putting some acids in a test tube. It doesn't make any logical sense. And we're certainly not going to disprove, for instance, the existence of the designer of a vehicle by showing the manner in which the gas moves around into the engine and allows the pistons to fire, whatever a car does, to work. You can't disprove the maker as a result of describing a process. It doesn't make logical sense. So, to continue on, I mean, that's where I come from there. Then you responded when I said it. You certainly couldn't take a 30-second video of saying that you think people would be interested in what I have to say. That's to the start. You can feel free to ask any questions that I have. You might also want to address the claim that atheists have more faith than Christians. I don't think atheists have more faith than Christians. I think they have the exact same amount of faith. And I've said it before. I'm not going to make this big production here, but I could put up a picture of a snail that has two eyes, that go like that. Their little eyes are little things like this, which are really just a substandard version of what ours are. So let's say we take a look at DNA, the human DNA structure as we know it. ACTG, adenosine, cytosine, I can't remember the other ones. But we have 4 essential, amino acids that compose. Only 4, which seems a ridiculous notion. Once again, that's another one of those miraculous, crazy nut things that science tells us is the reality. And 3 billion of those things, paired together, create what is us from a tiny little cell. That tiny little cell can continue to regenerate itself and knows exactly what our DNA is. I mean, it's insane. It's nuts. And the point I was trying to make was, okay, with the eye thing, we see 4 of these amino acids that are the basis of the components of our DNA. But what if there are elements of it that we can't see? What if there are 20 more elements? What if there are 100,000 other elements, which actually doesn't make, that isn't illogical at all, considering how complex the DNA molecule is, that there might be something more. And we cannot see it. So our knowledge, our scientific knowledge could be crap because we are such fallible, beings that have such limited senses. I read something today. I had to take my dog to the vet that said that the canine nose, what was it? It was like it was 100, maybe 1,000 times, maybe it was 1,000,000 times. I don't think it was that high, but it was like 1,000 times better in function than ours. So we're pretty, in terms of senses, we're not all that great. And down the evolutionary chain, maybe I as a believer, I don't believe that there's going to be any more than just us as the top of the evolutionary chain, if you will, the human being. Now, unfortunately, we won't be alive 1,000,000 or so years from now to make that determination, assuming there will be 1,000,000 or so years from now. But I'm making my point, hopefully, is that our perception is very limited, and therefore, anyone that solely says something like, well, I can only believe it if I see it, or I can only believe it if science proves it, or tends to prove it, well, you're being very faithful to your senses, that somehow your limited senses can allow us to have concrete answers to very difficult questions. And that's faith. That's blind faith. That's what a lot of people don't think about it. A lot of people just think that our eyes show us everything that we need to know. And even if we can get high-powered equipment and stuff to help us delve even deeper. And we can certainly get general ideas of what's going on. For instance, seeing the universe is continuing to expand, that proves that there was a start. We can kind of see that with, as they say, the naked eye, but there might be wholly more to that whole equation. What if we lived in a dimension that was more than 3 dimensions, but we could only perceive 3? And there's so many more things happening that we just cannot understand. It's like the drawing on a 2-dimensional piece of paper only knows the 2 dimensions they have. They don't have the up to see us looking down on them. Maybe there's just so much more going on. And deists, theists, Christians, Hindus, Muslims, Jews, whatever, all alike, and atheists, non-believers, we all have that faith that what our eyes show us is reality. And it may not be, and that's ultimately my point there. And lastly, then you give the comment, if Christians don't have faith, they wouldn't be able to move mountains. Matthew 17:20, how I'd explain that is Christ also said that if our right hand causes us to sin, cut it off, gouge out eyes and things. And I didn't come to bring peace, but a sword. Christ spoke in parables often and metaphors, and spoke in exaggeration, hyperbole quite often. And this is just another example. Really, I think what his point is on that is, for instance, the same as, you just need to have the tiny amount of faith of a mustard seed, is that will never really rise to a perfection, a level of perfection that would come close to that of God, or that would come close to that of God, Jesus, in my theology and my worldview. So when he says we wouldn't be able to move mountains, he's just reminding us that, yeah, I know you're not going to move the mountain. It's physically impossible. But I just want to remind you that as faithful as you think that you are, or as smart as you think you are, or as on the ball as you think you are, don't get too high on yourself. And that's a good motto for all of us. And I definitely need to be reminded of that. So I'm sorry for the 11-minute rant, and I hope it wasn't ranting too all over the place with a lot of ums. I imagine that I did, because I didn't prepare for this at all. I just decided to look at your comments. And if that turns into an interesting discussion, cool. But that's my take on things. So I wish you blessings, and everyone that's watching this video, thank you for, I imagine there'll be some birthday wishes down there. And I don't think I'm being too conceited to expect that, being I said, it's my birthday. And thank you for that, if you do that. And that's it. That's it for now. Maybe another 30 seconds coming sometime soon. Probably not today. And how crazy am I to wear red? This is like my Christmas sweater. It's kind of like saying, look at me, it's my birthday.